in the AI world, we don't have 10 years. We don't have 5 years. We don't really have a year. We have months to keep up. And I think it's incumbent upon every technology leader, not just a cyber leader, but every technology leader to stay up on where we're going. The scale of AI, which is you're now operating at machine speed. So imagine, a million drones coming at you digitally. Like, how do you combat a million drones? You need to create a million drones of your own, and a human being is not going to create a million drones. You have to do that digitally.
This episode is produced by the Digitalisation Pod and DXC. Welcome to the Digitalisation Pod and our episode on AI security, threat or solution. Today we explore the critical role of a Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, the leader safeguarding an organization's data and systems against cyber threats. We will dive into how the AI revolution is reshaping cybersecurity, both as a powerful defense and a dangerous tool for attackers. Joining us are Mike Baker, Global CISO at DXC Technology, and Espen Olsen, DXC Norway Country Manager, sharing their expert insights. Welcome, Mike and Espen.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Thank you, Jens.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. Just first, let us get to know you guys a little. Can we start with you, Mike? Who are you?
Who am I? Loaded question. My name is Mike Baker. I'm the Global Chief Information Security Officer for DXC Technology. And you mentioned, Jens, like, what is a CISO and what do they do? My role at DXC, again, as a global technology company, is to manage cyber risk wherever it is here at DXC, to put a program in place to protect us from cyber attacks or cyber incidents. So I've been here for a little over 3 years, 3.5 years. Before that, as you can tell, I'm in the United States, so I'm based here in Washington, D.C. Before that, I worked for a United States defense contractor. I also did a little time with Ernst & Young in the beginning part of my career. But all that experience kind of led me here to this role, which is it's very important, but also very fun at the same time. Just a little bit more about myself. I have 2 children here, 14 and 12. So most of my hobbies revolve around, children's sports and things like that when I'm not working. But just really excited to be here this morning, and thank you for the invitation.
Great. What about you, Espen?
So, Espen Olsen,
who are you?
Yes, who am I? So I've been with the company for a little more than 7 years. I've been in this position for 2.5 as a managing director for DXC in Norway. I have about 26, 27 years of experience from the IT market and information technology and technology in general across the globe. I spent my years, probably 20 years, traveling Far East Asia, US, Middle East, Europe, and so on. And before joining the technology market, I was working for 7 years in the Norwegian Air Force. First getting introduced to IT back in the mid-90s. Since then, I found that really, really interesting. Loads of opportunities, and I've been stuck with old technology, getting to learn new technology, and also working with the global companies. That's been quite stimulating, I have to say. Privately, living locally to Oslo. I've traveled extensively, never lived abroad, only traveled. So get to see airports, hotels, and taxis to and forth. But been working in loads of different cultures and geographies with the local teams there, and also managed teams virtually. I love sports. I'm also a vivid watch enthusiast. I like to also give back to the society when I'm not working. So that's a bit about me.
Cool. Thank you. Let's tune into the CISO part. But before we start with CISO, just so people understand the size and what you're doing in DXC, or what is DXC doing? Because I know that I think it's 130,000 people working there. And that's probably the same size as the second biggest city in Norway. So tell a little about DXC first, so that we understand what kind of company that you are responsible for the security for.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it when you think about the scale of DXC and what we do. You mentioned we have 135,000 employees globally. Where I want to say last count, we're in 60 plus countries, 70 plus countries. And what we do for the world, right, the technology world, is we have many services. Some would call us a global system integrator, but I think that kind of minimizes what we do. We do a ton of stuff around cloud and migration to cloud. We service modern workplace. We have a large consulting and engineering practice that does custom applications. We have a really thriving insurance software business and BPS, that is also in our portfolio. And then, I think you could probably guess it. We have a really large security and cybersecurity practice that we service, some of the biggest companies around the world. One of my favorite phrases about DXC, again, being here for 3 years, sometimes when you're working here every day, you don't understand the gravity of what we do. And one of our leaders who runs our global infrastructure business, Chris Drumgoole, always says, we run the critical infrastructure that runs the world. And I think that's a really good way to put it, right? When you think about airlines taking off, when you think about people going to ATM machines and getting money out of the ATM machine, when you think even about some of our critical infrastructure, from a national perspective, when you think about, military and government objectives, DXC is the technology provider that provides that globally. So it's I think we mentioned this, Espen mentioned this a second ago. It's a real privilege to work here, right? Doing the technology that kind of runs the world, and understanding, at least from a cyber perspective, how do we secure it? How do we take care of our customers, and how do we protect their information? So yeah, that's a little bit of what we do, but maybe we can add.
Yeah, and I was gonna add to that, Mike, because you mentioned security, and you mentioned insurance software. I mean, part of what we're selling globally now within the reassurance market is actually founded here in Norway. It started out 25 years ago with some Norwegian companies. So it was thought out here. We built the first sort of software here. Is being still developed and architecture locally, but we're selling on the global market.
But in what company was that?
Oh, it could be Insidia, it could be others. But the thing is that
I mean, DXC didn't exist.
No,
or the name wasn't.
The name wasn't, because we made a merger in 2017 with CSC and HP merging together. So this was part of our legacy footprint within Norwegian business. Also, what I would like to touch on there, Mike, is you did mention that running critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure in Norway. Everyone in Norway, they've heard of Bank ID. That's part of our customer base here. We're running secure operations for clients. We're running secure sort of applications. We're also running technology to a lot of different Norwegian companies that you've heard of, you've seen the logo, you understand who they are, yet we don't stand on sort of the podium waving the DXC flag, but we're in the background to a lot of these companies. So what Mike talks about, critical infrastructure, we can very well understand that as part of the Norwegian operations as well.
So it is services that you are
Absolutely
doing. You're not selling hardware? Or
we're selling hardware as well, but that's not our primary business.
No.
Services, managed services, together with our partners, that is really where the primary focus is.
Yeah, and just to add in a little bit, you had mentioned we're the heritage of our company. Now, DXC is the logo, has only been around for 6-ish years. as a new company, as you mentioned, Espen, formed by the merger of HP and CSC, or Computer Sciences Corporation. But there's a wonderful graphic that we can trace the lineage of DXC back almost to the dawn of the computing era, right? CSC was existing major U.S. company in the 1950s and 1960s, and I don't think I need to mention HP. EDS here in the United States, we all came together, and you can actually see kind of how all these lineages came and formed DXC and what we are today. So, like I said, the heritage is something to be very, very proud of. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Espen.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say the oldest client that we got and still have is DNB. We've had that client for more than 40 years. And I even have employees on that account with that client that's still employed with this company.
Are they using mainframes?
They are, in fact, but we're running a transition program now to transform them to new technology. So that's taking place.
You guys in DXC know mainframe, and
we know their setup. We know the mainframe, and we have people that has got knowledge that is not able to find on the global market.
COBOL
absolutely,
programming?
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
So, and it's thanks to all the people that's been with the company for so long. So, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I'm sorry to jump in. I mean, it's a little bit of a laughing matter, but a lot of the world's critical infrastructure still relies on mainframe experts, COBOL experts, that sort of thing. And I think, that's one of the things at DXC we're very, very proud of, is the fact that we're one of the leading mainframe services providers in the world, and a lot of major companies, a lot of major infrastructure still runs on it. So it's pretty cool.
But the mainframe is not dead. I had a guy from IBM in the podcast 2-3 years ago, and he was telling that it was coming new models all the time, it getting better and better, and in the sector that mainframes are working, they are still the best of that kind. I think it's transactions that is.
I mean, the delivery that we have, the services we provide, it's outstanding. Really, really good, reliable service. We've done this for decades. What we're doing now, and talking about DXC Norway, and sorry, Mike, to sort of you have a global hat on, but in order to sort of put this into a context locally, we're driving organizations to feel a better future. That's really what we want to do. How do we do that? Well, we work with technology, transforming technology. We work with introducing new technology, because there is a certain lifespan with the old technology, and most clients, they would want to go to something that is more future oriented. But in the meantime, we're delivering stable, good services. But the important thing is we're using technology to support our clients to a better future.
But what about cybersecurity? We met for the first time at a cybersecurity conference. Just half a year ago.
It's actually a year to date. It has.
It's a year now.
It's a year now. It was the Security Day last year. I think that was the first time we met, and then we had the interaction in March of this year. Absolutely.
But is cybersecurity a major part of what you're doing, both in Norway and international?
And again, on the Norwegian market for DXC, cybersecurity is part of every discussion that we have with the clients. It may not be the current footprint that we got, but it's on the agenda at least. It needs to be. It's part of the DXC strategy to differentiate ourselves locally here. Cybersecurity, operational technology. So those are the two main parameters that we're driving towards. And we're using different tool sets and competencies and so on. But again, for DXC, this is one major piece of where we come from, our history, but also where we're going ahead. And I'm sure we're going to get more into that with Mike during this conversation around AI and the CISO role.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How large part of the corporation is the cybersecurity international?
It's very large. I think there's two aspects to this that we need to keep in mind. One is we have a security practice that is one of the largest in the world, standalone security practice. And when you think about that, you think about services such as coming into a company and assessing their program and identifying improvements. I think that's a standard kind of consulting use case. But more importantly, the integration of tools and capabilities across the board to put best-in-class, zero trust-oriented capabilities to bear to protect that company. So you look at data loss prevention, you look at things you're doing on your computer to protect it from threats. Like, we have the ability to pull all those tools together and implement that. But that's the practice. But I think the other side of the coin is that security is embedded in everything we do. So you can get an engagement to help your security program mature and progress, right? As Espen mentioned, you're driving it to the future of what a security program could be. But most importantly, when we sell a cloud migration, right? When we sell most things, security is embedded from the top down. And some of those would be in the contract, some won't be in the contract, but in the end, DXC is a security first organization. If you're not security first, then there's significant repercussions, not just reputationally, but trust-wise, as it relates to how you service customers. So that's one of the reasons why I've been here so long. The average tenure of a CISO is a year and a half, maybe 2, and I'm doing 3.5 because of the deep commitment from our board to our CEO to all of our leadership. That security is paramount to everything we do. So that's a really important fact.
And I just want to echo that, because I mean my background is from the military, so security is sort of embedded in my sort of daily how I operate daily. And then as I got to get into the IT sector and the market, whether that's in the applications world or any other world, cybersecurity is always on the agenda. As I said, we may not have a security offering or a solution sold to a specific client, but it's always part of how we position that client and what risk assessment we do for those clients. Some clients may be looking for a service management solution, but service management is just a tool set. It's just a means of getting the day to sort of run by. In order to make sure that the company is licensed to operate in the aerospace and defense sector. If you miss out on this, your days are counted. You have to have on the agenda, and that's what I find so stimulating working in this environment. Whether it's technology, aerospace and defense, or any other companies, could be the financial sector, banking, capital markets, and so on. It is part of every discussion that we're having. Absolutely.
But have you seen any changes in the attention that you get from the clients about cybersecurity the last 5 years?
I want to go to Espen first, but then maybe I'll respond to that.
No. I can try and answer that, and please chip in, Mike, as you feel fit. Now, yes, we've seen a drastic change in what the clients are asking for, and also the level of engagement that we see. Some clients, they have it on the agenda, but they haven't really put any people to the task or any budgets to the activities that needs to be done. So some clients, I think, are quite I wouldn't say ignorant, but they're probably not aware of the risk they're running, whereas others, they are certainly aware of it and want to do something. Now, has it grown in sort of importance? Absolutely. We've seen that at least in the last 5 years, if not more. Each and every day, at least in Norway, we have incidents, or we have issues regarding to cybersecurity or security. This is something that every customer that we're talking to, they feel close to their heart. And then it comes down to what is their ability to execute on that strategy. And that's a different question, because some really want to do something, but they don't know where to start. Others, they are really far down the line. So I think it has changed. I think that we'll see even more focus on cybersecurity going forward in other sectors as well. Typically, this has been an aerospace and defense-driven thing, and then you're down to critical infrastructure, so banking, capital markets could be, and so on, utilities. I think that you're looking at far different sectors that needs to have this on the agenda. Absolutely.
What do you think, Mike, in your market?
I think I'm going to get on a soapbox here for a second. I've been a CISO since 2015. So that's a little over, it's 10 and a half years in this role, two different companies, but in this role. When I started in 2015, it was a completely different world than it is today. Cybersecurity was a back office kind of dark room thing that people did. It was an offshoot of our information technology groups. The CISO was often a highly technically competent leader, but not a business leader. Boardroom attention was not as prevalent, and certainly the CISO was not, in the boardroom as much or had a seat on the table. But that has since evolved. I mean, in the 10 years, as everything has. And I think the biggest thing as you look, when you progress to today, the CISO is not a technical leader. He is, as a subject matter specialty in, technically putting a program together. But the CISO is now a business leader. And I am a business leader here at DXC. What I say is that I'm a business risk manager with a competency in cybersecurity. Because my job is to illuminate the cybersecurity risk, talk about it to our business leaders so they can make the most informed risk-based decisions, right? Because cyber risk in a business is not dissimilar from another technical risk or a financial risk, regulatory risk, legal risk, all that stuff. And all, business leaders have to balance the resources they have and what they choose to mitigate. Now, in cybersecurity, what they choose to mitigate has now been increasingly on the cybersecurity side. And maybe you'll ask why. The prevalence and onset of ransomware in like the 2018 time period, I think was a seminal moment as it relates to our industry. As I mentioned before, cybersecurity was a back office thing. Yes, there was data theft and leakage affecting personal information. But it was a lot of nation state driven and privacy driven and things like that, which is very, very important. Don't get me wrong. But what gets a business leader's attention is when a cybersecurity and a digital threat can bring the company down. And that's what we started evolving in 17, 18, 19 onto today. Most recently, there's companies in the news that have unfortunately been victims of ransomware, a major car maker in that area of the world. They cannot make vehicles. And they have not been able to make vehicles for a month.
Will you say that it's some special events or things that happened that made the change?
The change is that it wasn't just nations coming after companies to steal sensitive data for espionage. Again, very important, don't get me wrong. But data leakage, when you think about that, that's a reputational issue. It's a monetary issue as it relates to compensating people whose data was stolen. But when ransomware is put on a company and they encrypt your stuff and you go down as a company and you cannot produce what you need to produce to make revenue, that availability issue is significant. And so we're seeing that, like I said, a major car maker in that area of the world hasn't been able to make cars in a couple weeks. And so that gets a lot of attention. So everyone always says the evolving threat landscape. What's truly evolving is the impact to a company, right? Data theft, availability concerns, business disruption, reputational harm, regulatory issues. So over the last 10 years, the biggest thing that we've seen is just an expansion of those significant consequences for companies that don't take cybersecurity seriously. So I'm coming back to your original question, I promise, Jens. But when you get back to it, when you look at that impact, it is top of mind of most business leaders. And if it is not, then it's incumbent upon us to advise them and lead them on that path, because there are significant business consequences.
And I just also want to add to that, Mike, what you're saying. So in 2019, major Norwegian company had a ransomware attack, Hydro. I'm very proud to say that parts of the DXC family and our Center of Excellence here in Norway and Oslo on cybersecurity, they were also supporting Hydro in making sure that they were able to rectify the issues that were experienced and supported Hydro in the days and weeks and months to follow that incident.
But that incident,
yeah,
I think that was like a turning point in Norway.
Oh, it certainly was. It certainly was for this client. Absolutely.
Because it was like, was how many millions did it cost?
Oh, I cannot recall, but we're talking tens and tens of millions.
700 million Norwegian kroners. I think I heard. Can divide it on 10, then you have it in dollars.
And that's just the immediate effect of it or consequence of it. And then you have the reputational bit, and then you have the other bits. I mean, one of the largest companies in Norway, so monetary value is one thing. I think the more serious one is, I mean, license to operate. It all falls down to that.
And that was a ransom.
That was a ransomware incident. Absolutely.
So they wanted $10,000, and then they could get rid
of
it.
I cannot recall what they wanted, and that's also been discussed quite widely afterwards and so on. But the fact to the matter is, DXC, we're close to our clients. We're supporting them in these critical times. I think what Mike's alluding to is, instead of being reactive to something happening, we need to be more proactive, running risk assessments with the clients, getting this on the agenda. For the companies that's got it high up on the agenda, it's not an issue. But it's all those companies that does not have it that's really the issue. And they're part of the same value chain. So in one way or the other, they will affect another client that may have cybersecurity on their top priority, or at least top 3 priorities.
It's a resilience conversation. It used to be, it's a security conversation, and security used to be, it's the party of no, and this. That's not it. It's an integrated, like every business needs to look at resilience in a physical way and a digital way, and we need to be completely integrated. And what does resilience mean? It means planning, obviously protecting, right, and putting the program in place, planning for the worst, and testing it out, and testing yourself, and testing your response procedures. You know, the interesting thing with that example on ransomware is, you don't want to be sitting there going, what do we do and who do we call? So that's the biggest thing is, okay, we know what to do. We've tested this. And keep in mind, everyone is a victim. When you are hit by ransomware, you are a victim. A lot of people point and be like, they didn't take it seriously enough. But some of the most advanced companies in the world are victims of cybersecurity issues. And the biggest thing here is to understand what your next step will be, practice it, make sure you're ready, because it's not an if thing. And this isn't a doom and gloom thing. It's not an if, it's a when. And it's a when, and it's the impact of when. And how can you minimize that impact, not just to your business, but the people who depend on you, whether it's customers or in your case, national infrastructure and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I attended a US-Norway business summit recently, and part of the discussions that we're having, and this is across multiple industries. It could be aerospace defense, shipping, seafood, food beverage, medtech, high tech. Resiliency, exactly what you're talking about, Mike, that is on the agenda. That's what everybody's talking about. How do we make sure that we have resiliency and that we have plans for what would potentially happen? And it's a global phenomenon. They're talking of that sort of partners in the value chain. They need to cooperate. That was the most important message that came out of those meetings that we attended. So again, this is not isolated to Norway. It's not isolated to the US. It's across the world. Every single company needs to be involved in that.
Good. Just to understand the CISO role, because I think we talked about it a little. In Norway, CISO isn't a common title, because I guess that the Norwegian companies is not the same size as American companies, So we have a lot of SMB companies, which is probably small in USA. So I haven't heard this title very often in Norway. So, Mike, what is your daily routine as a CISO?
Oh,
You get up in the morning, don't you?
yeah. That's a broad question, but here's essentially, now you may say the title is not common in Norway, but I would bet the responsibility is still there. CISO, yeah, cyber responsibility typically falls to someone in the organization. Now, it could be shared with a CIO. It could be a director of information security or director of security. It could be a CTO. But really what the CISO title means is, again, I alluded to this in the previous conversation. I manage cyber risk on behalf of the company. And what that means every day when I wake up is it's a very broad question. But at the highest level, I run the program that implements the capabilities and the process, put the people in place, the process and the tools to manage that cyber risk holistically and globally across DXC. So a typical day for me is most of it's running the team that runs the program, right? And I think that's something that we really need to get in on, that this isn't a highly technical role. It can be, it depends on the size. But for me, it's you look at hundreds of employees who are working really hard each day on their piece of the program puzzle to protect the company. So my number one responsibility is to take care of the people, to lead a high performing team, to motivate the team to show up every day. Because one of the biggest things in cyber is it's a 24/7, 7 day a week, 365 days a year job. Now we may have slower periods and higher periods like everything else, but we've had a few Christmases where something really big is going on in the last couple of years. So I put that in a thing as when I think about that, it's people management comes out, because that is making sure the team is operating effectively. They're supported, they feel heard, they feel that their position is rewarding, right, for what they do every day. So that's probably number one, what I do. Number two is you have a highly technically complex web of tools that you need to put in place and make sure that they're running effectively. So we have tools on the computers, and we have tools on the network, and we have tools that watch our data. We have tools that make sure when I log in, I'm me. And that portfolio of tools, just managing that ecosystem of technologies, is probably the number two thing that we do. And then when you look at the process side, I mentioned before just practicing the process. So what do you do when an incident happens or an event? How are you investigating things fully? How are you managing, kind of those ongoing investigations? And on a global scale, it's a pretty time-consuming thing. So managing the people, process, and technology every day is how I would answer that question. But today I get to take a break and talk to you two. So this is a welcome. This is a welcome break from the norm.
When you talk with us or you talk with your employees, I guess as a part of the management, I guess you also are building culture, which is very important, security culture in the company.
We call it a cyber aware culture.
Yeah.
So this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. You may see this here on my background.
Yeah.
But it's not just 1 month, it's every month that we're building a cyber aware culture, because in the end, you only have so many people and you have so much time to do this, and your adversary is well funded, almost infinitely funded. So it is a group effort. So all 130,000 or so employees at DXC have a role to play in terms of understanding the risks, making sure they're doing the right thing. I've always said, don't click on the links or answer the emails that you don't know. And if you see something, you need to say something. And so we rely upon all of DXC, to help us get that done. So that's kind of, from a responsibility perspective, that's down and in on how I run the program with my team. And then there's up and out. So I look at up and out as, communicating the program to our business leaders, right? There is a cost associated with all cyber programs. We need to be conscious and responsible about that cost and make sure that we're communicating the value of the program to our business leaders, communicating the cyber risk profile to our business leaders as part of a business risk process. So that's also a big half of my job there, which is almost, I don't want to say selling the program, but accurately communicating the program to business leaders in non-technical terms. Here's the business value of what we do every day. Here's why we do it. Here's why we make the decisions that we've made. So there's that down and in component, and there's up and out. And also up and out is, I'm very proud of what we've built here at DXC over the last 3 years. We do some really cool things. And so a little bit of my job is going out and talking with customers and doing podcasts and doing this thing, because I think we have a really good story to tell. What we've done really well at securing a large global company at scale. So some of the things that we've done could be valuable to some of our clients in Norway. So a little bit of my job there is talking to those customers and kind of, just coming together as a community and talking about cool things that we do.
And I could also add to what Mike's saying there, that the job that he's doing internally, we at DXC are also taking on that task for some of our clients. We've got clients in the oil and gas industry that didn't have a CISO. They had a CIO, but they were not sure what's our risk profile. So we took a task together with our client, run through a risk assessment with our client, and were tasked to run their internal CISO role for about a year, because they didn't have that capability. They knew they had some black spots. They knew they had some work that needed to be done. But in order to build that business case, just as Mike said, he needs to do towards his management, we needed to get it with that client to run that through their C-level, to get it on the agenda, to find funding, to get the positions they needed, and then step by step improving that risk profile. So yeah, we can run this internally. We can run this with clients. But I'm proud to say that with DXC, as Mike said, we're uniquely positioned to take on those tasks. In Norway, specifically, we have a Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity. We have people on the ground, security vetted, with clearances that could take on any task within the market that we're represented here. So yeah, just wanted to add that to what Mike's saying. Absolutely.
I want to add one more. You mentioned the role of the CISO. I've talked about the evolution in the 10 years that I've been enrolled, 10 plus years. What we really are getting to is that the CISO is not, it used to be the party of no, which was the business would say, look, businesses are reliant right now on technology and rapid technology evolution, particularly with AI, to stay competitive on the global scale. And I think the role of the CISO now is to, as I mentioned, I don't say, well, I throw out blockers because I'm scared. Like, risk is part of business, and cyber risk is part of it. So when you think about even like AI, it's how do you foster an innovative culture at your company that can take advantage of the promise of something like AI from a technology standpoint? How do you put the guardrails in place? How do you do it safely and securely, but still allow the business to go? And I think what that is nowadays is, for me, as being, as I mentioned, being that risk manager, but you're also unemotional about cyber risk. A lot of times with technology professionals, they get very heated and emotional about what they're doing, right? In terms of, well, you can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Our job as leaders is to shepherd the path down and say, this is something that, to remain competitive, we need to put the proper guardrails in place, but support the business. And in that way, the CISO is now a business enabler, which is, enabling is not a bad word. It's, we're part of the value stream of the business. We're not one holding the business back. because of a fear, an uncertainty, or a doubt.
And also we see companies, they are putting but they have cybersecurity more in agenda, probably because the world is what it is as of 2025, geopolitical situation and so on. We see a lot of companies, they're having discussions on how can they nearshore or even onshore these types of discussions, teams, work that we carry out. As of previously, it was all about outsourcing to low-cost countries. Cybersecurity is not a cost discussion any longer. It's about capabilities, about providing that safeguarding and providing good, sensible services to the clients. And cost is then secondary. That has changed dramatically over the last 5 years. And I'm sure, Mike, you've seen the same thing, but these are discussions that we're having on a daily basis with our Norwegian clients. Absolutely.
You mentioned that you mentioned AI, the revolution. Everyone knows that AI is really coming now. What trends can we see from AI? Do we have AI hackers?
Kind of. It's getting there. So here's my view of AI, and this is how we pursue AI. Like, again, we're a technology company. DXC is leaning into AI in all that we do, right? All the services we provide will be disrupted by AI at some point in time. So think about, if we provide a help desk to a customer, you have someone on the other end, they answer the phone. We've had automated sort of help desk call systems for a while. But the promise of AI in this is it could actually replace the human in that role, and the human can then go do a different task, an upskilled task, not just answering phones all day. So that's an example where AI is going to disrupt our technology ecosystem. The same is in play in cybersecurity. We are seeing right now more advanced threats around using AI around things like deep fakes, phishing emails that are sent to users they're very indistinguishable from the way that the person would talk. So if you're looking at a fraud attempt, from like a CFO, the AI can really mimic how they would typically send an email and things like that if they have that ability. And we're seeing the beginning, as you mentioned, of AI-driven attacks at scale, in which an AI bot or an AI agent will go out and actually perform the exploit without human intervention. And just what that means to us is, you're not limited by the speed of human fingertips. It just goes. So you're looking at, to me, what that means is time to respond, time to detect is going way down. And we've always, the requirements going way down. And we've always been in a position where we're trying to reduce it. But now you're operating at machine speed. So that's, I think, where we're doing. And that's just going to get worse and worse. So in this particular instance, we've actually leaned in at DXC, and we have a fully agentic security operations center. So what that means is, traditionally you'd have an operations center that's looking at a screen and seeing something go bing, and you have a human go investigate it and say, well, this is either something we need to really take seriously, or this seems benign. That decision tree right now at DXC, as we look at our own security processes, is fully driven by AI. And we've taken the human beings within that security operations center, and they can then go upskill and do something else rather than do the job of just looking at the screen and making those decisions. And we've seen a nearly 70% increase in speed using AI. And we've seen the AI...
From the attacker or from responding? Do you mean from attacking
or
or
responding?
Can we use just a little more time on the bad guys and how they are using? Yeah, but that's quite exciting.
It is.
Yeah, because you mentioned that they can make mails, emails that is perfect and all that. But I'm thinking, can you use a LLM to operate angry IP scan and to do things that they find with open ports? What do you see? Can you buy software that is doing this, which is like a wrap around Llama or DeepSeek or any other open source LLMs?
Well, I think more importantly is you could code malicious software right now. That was not a skill that was completely open to everyone. You could literally create a piece of malware or a worm, and we've seen that, and you could go. So we talked about the scale of AI, which is you're now operating at machine speed. So imagine, a million drones coming at you digitally. Like, how do you combat a million drones? You need to create a million drones of your own, and a human being is not going to create a million drones. You have to do that digitally. So I think what as it relates to how you're using LLMs, I think most importantly right now, the threat is the democratization of the skill set to do something like create really bad malicious software, create ransomware, create, worms and things like that. Your ability to take advantage of a zero-day exploit in our technology providers, in which there is no patch, and in most cases we don't even know about it. You, Jens, using the right LLMs, could create a tool to take advantage of this right now. And so I think that is the bigger issue that we have at this point in time. But I come back to the fact I'm an opportunity optimist guy. Is we have the tools to be able to combat that. And as I mentioned, our agentic SOC, if it operates 70% faster, I mentioned the drones on drones, it's 70% today after 2 months of doing it. It'll be 99.9% faster a year from now. And so as fast as Jens can use an LLM to code an exploit or take advantage of something, I'm going to be able to defend against it just as fast.
Suddenly I was a bad guy.
Absolutely. No, and I think that people talk about the external threat. They talk about drones and talk about agents from foreign nations walking the streets and so on. I think more worryingly are the threats that you don't see. What you're really talking about here, Mike. Things happening on a daily basis with companies, and having this on the agenda is really what's important. And again, where are we placed, DXC? We're placed strategically with our clients. We're with the right stakeholders. We also want to drive the cybersecurity agenda, because some of these clients they need more attention in these areas. They may not have all the money to do that sort of in a big bang operation and so on, but driving this step by step helps reduce risk for them, which is mitigating the risk is all that this about. And again, I think most companies, they also see that the most vulnerable piece in order to get into here is the employee themselves. Hence why we're having this cybersecurity awareness month at DXC. We have it on the agenda this month, absolutely, but we have it throughout the year, because each and every employee, each and every person is exposed on a daily basis. Simple as that.
Yeah. Let's take the email. We mentioned email and specially crafted emails. You can only fight AI with AI, generally, right? So here at DXC, we use an AI-driven, AI-augmented email security solution that uses AI to essentially look at sentiment analysis and other things in an email to really find the small part that could be, weird or off or something like that, and quarantine it. Using that solution, our email risk, like as a threat vector, has significantly diminished. Now, I know that that's not going to last forever because the bad guys always catch up. But in the last year, using that AI augmented email security solution, we've been able to, again, fight AI with AI. And this is a multi-dimensional issue for a CISO. So I don't know who's listening out there, but if you're in the technology sphere in Norway, there's two sides. As a CISO or a security professional, you need to actually manage the risk of AI to your organization, right? There's significant regulations around AI, particularly in the EU. There's guardrails you have to put in place. There's vulnerabilities that the use of AI can present to a company. It's the CISO's job to manage that risk just like it manages any other technology risk. But it's specific and it takes a specific skill set. So here at DXC, broadly, but also within our cyber team, we're generating an AI-ready workforce, trained, AI native, ready to go. But you have to manage this. And then over here, there's the opportunity that AI presents to better protect your company. I mentioned email. I mentioned using it in a security operations center. But you have to balance those two sets with AI. And that's really how we do it here at DXC, is we not only protect against it, but we understand the opportunity that's presented with AI, and we have to lean on both sides of that fence.
So, but then you put, like the email, you put LLMs into, or AI into the spam filter, so that the spam filter is finding threats before it comes to the mail server?
Exactly. And is exactly what we're doing. But it's not just spam, because spam is benign and annoying, but it's real threats. It's malicious software, it's malicious links and attachments, it's attempts to impersonate and fraud and do sorts of frauds and things like that. So it's detecting all of that, and it's doing it very, very well.
But those tools that you're talking about, and that's a question I should have asked for a long time ago. When you're a CISO, are you a CISO for DXC, or you're also CISO for all the clients? And the same goes for this anti-spam service that is not only spam but also malicious software.
I only have enough time to be CISO for DXC. So when I talk about the capabilities, I'm talking about if you're a DXC employee and you get an email, it goes through our capabilities that we put in place. In this case, that email security product that I mentioned. What I do service that I take very seriously, as I mentioned, I'm on the East Coast of the United States. I'm right outside Washington, D.C., and we have a very vibrant CISO community. As you mentioned, Espen, in Norway, you have a very vibrant community there. What we take very seriously, I do, and I'm sure Espen, you do as well, is we engage with the community here, particularly in the United States and globally. When a CISO that's protecting a client of ours, needs help or needs advice, I'm going to be the first one on the call, because this is truly a team sport. And as I mentioned, our adversaries, the bad guys, are essentially infinitely funded, and they're very, very motivated. So we truly have to stick together as a global community to do the right thing.
But not only that, Mike. I mean, DXC is often also customer zero. Whatever we sell and what we implement with clients and what we work with clients, we've tested it internally as well. So whatever you're doing as a CISO for DXC globally is also what we're selling and what we're supporting our clients in Norway and worldwide to do as well. So I think you're quite modest saying that you're only the CISO for DXC, but in many terms, you're a CISO. You're doing exactly for DXC what we're doing to, could be Norske Skog, could be DNB, other clients that we got in Norway.
So a good example of that is, some of these tools are very challenging to put in place. They're not just, set it and forget it. And so oftentimes we'll have a customer come that's putting a similar tool in place, right? Whether, maybe a secure remote access solution. We do a lot of talk around zero trust and zero trust networking. And so we'll get on and basically talk about our experiences doing it, again, at scale at DXC. When you've implemented something successfully across over 100,000 employees, that's a really cool data point. And we're very giving with that experience, because I think it's for the good of not just our clients, but the community in general.
And also we have got really capable partners. The partner network that we got is extraordinary, and we wouldn't be able to do any of this without the technology partners that we got, the service partners that we got, in order to build that capability. So yes, we do have really, really strong employees that's got years and years of background and experience in this field, but also the tool sets that we put together. It's not only DXC IP on those, but it's also the partner network. And we do see that, especially in Norway, that we got a lot of technology partners that we're working very closely with. So I needed to mention that as well. So often we forget that when we're fronting DXC and we're talking about DXC, there's a bunch of people behind that, both DXC employees as well as our value partners.
If we look into the future, which is quite hard, but we can do some guessing, do you think we will see some really big things around these security issues and AI or AGI?
I don't have an opinion on AGI, but there's things that I know. AI-driven threats will be the threat vectors of the future. Hard stop. As I mentioned, we've seen it. It's growing. It will grow more, and that's going to happen. And then also on the horizon is you have the kind of the specter of quantum computing, and we haven't talked about that, but quantum computing will disrupt the way in which we secure our sensitive data globally, and it's not quite here. So 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, but it will happen, and every company needs to start thinking about quantum readiness. I don't think it's something that's like the first, I don't think about it first thing on a Monday, but I do think about it in terms of saying, as I mentioned, from a resilience standpoint, how will we prepare? How will we understand it? Now, when you look at the power of quantum computing, that is the promise of the not so distant future, with where we are with AI, that relies on strong and available compute. I can see how those things will come together, and it'll be something that could be quite scary. But from my perspective, that's really what I'm looking for, which is protecting our customers and our company from the threats of AI, using AI, creating an AI-ready workforce, and preparing for quantum.
Why do you think quantum is so powerful or so dangerous?
So quantum computing will break every modern encryption protocol that we have. And when it breaks the encryption protocol, all of our sensitive data is unsecured. All of our personal data is not secured until we apply quantum-ready cryptography across the board. And I think we know what's going to happen here. There will be an event where the news will flash, just like OpenAI 2 years ago, and you go, oh my gosh, this thing is real. Quantum will become real, and then everyone's going to be caught flat-footed saying, oh gosh, we have to go address this threat. Because then you're living in a world where privacy is not just not guaranteed, it doesn't exist. And so we all have to get ready for that. And so I know I kind of pivoted to quantum there. Obviously, AI is right in front of us, and I want to stay focused on that. But we will get to a point where the AI is a lot smarter than a human being. And you can only think about the cyber threat that comes from that in terms of the ability to think on the fly, to pivot, to penetrate a network, to exfiltrate data agentically on its own. That's coming, and I would say that's coming in the not so distant future. And to kind of put that in a context here, I always go back to the cloud revolution, in which the cloud was popped up and started becoming popular 10 years ago, a little bit earlier, and everyone said, wow, we'll kind of step into it. We're still doing cloud migrations 10 years later. In the AI world, we don't have 10 years. We don't have 5 years. We don't really have a year. We have months to keep up. And I think it's incumbent upon every technology leader, not just a cyber leader, but every technology leader to stay up on where we're going. Because it's not this really neat annual cycle anymore. It's innovation on a weekly or monthly basis that we need to keep up with and make sure that we're understanding. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, sir.
Scary. But when you said that quantum computing ready,
it's fun.
Huh?
It's fun.
I would say again, it's fun. we don't get into this business because I want to have high stress and walk around scared all the time. I get into it because I want to play and with cool technology, and I want to, protect a company with cool technology. I want to protect our customers with it. So for me, it's kind of like the most fun time to be in technology ever,
Yeah, that's
in
true.
my opinion. And
Yeah.
I'm about 25 years into this gig. I'm 25 years in the professional world, and mobile was really fun. Don't get me wrong. Cloud was interesting, but this is easily the most fun time to be in technology ever.
For those out there that don't understand it's fun but think it's scary, how far are we in being quantum ready?
Yeah,
Is it products out there already?
there's a new date every single month, but a couple years out, 5-ish years, perhaps, based on the stuff I've read. I am no quantum cryptography expert. DXC does have quantum readiness experts, I shall say. And it's funny, I actually use DXC to do our quantum readiness assessment, which is kind of neat. So I'm not an expert, but in all that I've read, you're looking at 3 to 5-ish years.
I note it down and can come back to you in 3 to 5 years.
There you go.
Could we go back to Norway and the Norwegian position when it comes to threats? The latest 2 weeks we have had in the Nordic countries, we have had maybe not attacks, but it have been drones that have been disturbing.
Shutting down air traffic, and shutting down airports.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it have been proven, but everyone says that it has to be the Russians that have done this. Are we more exposed in the Nordic countries and Norway than, for example, in Italy or France or down in Europe? How do you see it?
Should I try and answer that? No. So I think Norway's position in the geopolitical landscape is quite important. We have a very crucial role. Last week's business summit that I attended in New York underpins that. We are regarded as an important ally to US, and we're an important ally to NATO. We are where we are geographically positioned. We've shared a border with Russia. Now, we at DXC, we don't have a view on the geopolitical situation, but what we need to do is we need to look after our customers. We need to look after what we're doing. I think that it'd be foolish of us not to think that there are states or organizations out there that does not want good things to us. I think that we need to assume that there are people out there that's looking to create disturbance, to create deception, and so on. That's happening on a daily basis. Part of my career has been in the military. I still serve in sort of Heimevernet, which is it gives a reality check on what we're doing in the technology business, because going back into uniform once in a while, it gives you a flavor of what's happening out there in sort of on a daily basis. It's no different to the reality that we see with our clients. I think it's only that I've spent my years in the military. I've worked in the aerospace and defense sector for about 25 years. This has been on the agenda for decades. I think that what's new now is that we see more visible threats. And why will that happen? Well, we don't know. People better educated can answer to that. But I see that where we're positioned, it's important for Norwegian companies to have this on the agenda. And we can, as I said before, we can only assume that the cyber attacks or the cybersecurity issues is happening on a daily basis. And the drones is just an indication of the level of activity that these people are taking to sort of in order to create that noise in the society.
Yeah. Have you seen news about that in US?
No, I'm kind of locked in on the cyber element. The only thing I'll add to that is, cyber actors don't know boundaries, right? They see a vulnerability, they attack a vulnerability. Oftentimes it's automated. Doesn't matter if it's in Norway or France or Kansas in the United States. So when I look at these sorts of threats, yes, they're not diminishing the uniqueness of certain geographies, particularly related to how a kinetic conflict can actually translate to a cyber conflict as well in certain parts of the world that exists. But writ large, they don't know boundaries, right? They see something, they go after it. Particularly ones that want to exploit a company or extort a company for money.
Earlier, we have had an image of the hacker as a teenage boy with high IQ that can do things, but now it's not teenagers anymore that is doing the hacking. Who is it? Do we have any statistics of who is doing it?
So it can be still. There is no right or wrong answer. When you look at threat actor groups, you're in essentially the three categories: nation state. So you can imagine the adversary states that are generally responsible for adversarial cybersecurity attacks against U.S. or European companies, right? So you have nation states. You have hacktivists, which are people who are causing destruction because they're maybe politically motivated or motivated by some other cause. Then you have cybercriminals. And cybercriminals are generally looking to extort money or something else, right? Steal data and then sell that data, but they're economically driven. So you have one driven by national security imperative in their country. You have one driven by a political ideology, and you have one driven by essentially financial gain.
So the first one is working in public sector.
No, the first one works in a lot of different sectors, but that first one is they bring with them the resources and sophistication of governments, which is a really big deal, right? You have unlimited resource, you have unlimited training, you have unlimited, money, right? You have unlimited tooling. That's a serious challenge. That's been a serious challenge for a very long time, right? But when you talked about the thought of like a teenager doing stuff, when you look at people who are financially driven, there are threat actor groups now who are made up of younger individuals, Western countries, looking to get financial gain. You'll see publicly disclosed arrests both in the U.S. and Europe of younger adults in a threat actor group called Scattered Spider. We always have to have a cool name. That were the ones that extorted and brought down, say, MGM, casinos 2 or 3 years ago. Ones that have, extorted a number of significant companies and extorted a lot of money. So, I don't think you can put the threat actors in a demographic group like that, but you can put them in a motivating group. And each of those groups has a different risk profile, right? The nation state actors are typically trying to take data, information, which could be reputationally harmful. It could be financially harmful if you have to compensate those whose information has been taken. Obviously, the cyber criminals, a direct availability of your business impact or financial impact if you choose to pay a ransom, of which I'd recommend people don't pay that. And then also an availability impact on hacktivists and the like who are politically motivated. So it can come in all shapes and sizes, unfortunately.
I see that time is running.
Mm.
Do you have any questions for Mike that we?
Probably not questions. I think we've covered a lot of ground in the time we've had here. I think that we're extremely privileged to have such a switch-on CISO with the company, representing the whole of DXC. We're a relatively small market in Norway, but I mean why are we here? Why are we in Norway doing the business that we're doing? Well, we wanna drive businesses to fuel a better future. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by transforming the businesses. We're using technology as an enabler, and we safeguard the operations through the work that Mike's doing for us internally, but we're doing that towards our clients. So I think for me, it's good to have somebody of Mike's caliber there. We could always call upon him to, well, whether that's going to be for these types of things or whether it's a client-facing activity and so on. But the thing for me is a key differentiator for myself as running the Norwegian business is cybersecurity. It is a key differentiator. We wanna keep that. We wanna build on that, and having that on the agenda each and every day, both as individuals, as part of working for DXC, but also when we're out there working with our clients. So I don't have too many questions for Mike. I think that the conversation that we had has been really good, and I think we both live in the same world. It's not vastly different where you live than where we're at.
Well, I've never been to Norway, and so we need to do this again. And I would love to come to Norway and check out the country and hang out. And look, and again, like and thank you for the compliment, Espen. I appreciate that. I run a smaller team when you compare it to the 4,000 security professionals we have servicing customers every day, right? I play a really small part in kind of setting the agenda and a small part in understanding what a good path forward is. But it's really like, when you look at the people on the ground every day in Norway and around the world that are securing our customers, those are the real experts out there. So really, really proud to work with all of them.
If we should have some last advices that we could give to the listeners of the podcast, especially when I've said it several times. I don't think everyone has enough focus on the cybersecurity. What questions should they ask themselves? What should they do after listening to this podcast?
So I think the most important and at least from my perspective is dare to have cybersecurity on the agenda. Dare to ask the question, what is our risk profile? And if you don't have the competency internally, reach out to us at DXC or anyone else. We at DXC, we're uniquely placed to hold the hand through that process, give advice, and to be there for the long run. But dare to have it on the agenda. Make sure you understand really what profile you got. Unless you do that, you go fully blind into the future. And this is going to be more and more important going forward. So yes, it's going to cost money to run a full sort of cybersecurity aware company and so on. It's going to take time, but unless you have it on the agenda, you could run the risk of losing the license to operate, as we call it in the aerospace and defense world, or risk the reputation of the company. That's the biggest risk that you got. So get it on the agenda. Dare to ask the question, run a risk assessment review, and start planning your activities based on that. That would be my advice.
Any comments?
I don't have too much advice in excess of what I think, Espen, that was great advice. I think part and parcel to that is when you say get it on the agenda, is advocate within your company that cyber risk is a real business risk. Just like a financial risk, just like any other risk, regulatory risk. And I think once you do that, it's naturally on the agenda. And as you mentioned, Espen, you have to understand where you are. There are so many frameworks out there to compare where you are and get a maturity of the program. It's not as a bewildering space as you may imagine. Pick a framework and just go, right? And you don't have to solve all the problems today. I always say it's like every day is like 1,000 paper cuts, right? You look back on a year and you go, wow, we've done a lot in a year, but every day it doesn't feel like we're doing too much. But when you look at it a year or two in the rear view mirror, it looks amazing. So make it a business risk, get started, and start making small improvements, right, to increase the resiliency of your business.
Okay. One last second last question to you, Espen. If a company is calling you and say, we haven't had too much focus on cybersecurity, can you help us? What kind of project are they starting? What can they expect?
Real simple. I mean, easy a consultancy to start off with. A few hours here and there. Get a plan in place. Speak to some of our security experts, whether that's physical security or cybersecurity. For us, it goes hand in hand. And get a project defined. What are you trying to do? How quickly can you do it? What budgets do you have available, and so on. That pretty much defines where you're going. And then again, it's like Mike said, it's a business risk. How do you navigate those waters? How do you mitigate that business risk as cybersecurity? But for us, it could be a couple of days of a workshop with a client. We put some people in a room that we can discuss some of the topics and get some findings on the table, and then from there we could define it as deep and wide as you want. But it's not a major task in itself. It isn't. These are frameworks that we use on a daily basis. We've done this numerous times. We know what steps you need to take, and it's down to the business then to take those steps. Obviously, we can be tasked to help along the way. And some clients, we've actually taken on the CISO role for those clients because they didn't have that core competency internally at the time. So yeah, a couple of days of a workshop, and we're off going.
Got it. And then the last question, and you don't see this coming, Mike. We have a standard, because you haven't listened to our podcast before, because usually it's in Norwegian. But I used to ask our guest the same question, and that is, if you are going to listen to the Digitalization Pod, who would you like as a guest in the podcast?
Coming in, I think Espen.
I can give you a month sort of.
You can answer later.
I can start answering that and give you a minute to think about that, Mike. But we've been recently through an election in Norway, election for Parliament. With the Norwegian Parliament, you've got people from sort of from all layers of the population coming in and then sitting in Parliament. It'd be interesting for let's say the CISO in that environment with the Parliament or the government institution to be guests here, to talk about how they safeguard people that's not used to probably be in that position. You've got fresh people coming out of school, going into Parliament. You've got people that's been there for decades. But they all share sort of a common responsibility to safeguard Norway and so on. So it'd be interesting to listen to CISO or a similar position that sort of safeguards
in the Parliament.
In a Parliament.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Absolutely. Okay, have you had time to think about the question?
And I know this may not apply to Norway specifically, but I think that in the European Union, they are really forging the way in terms of AI security, and that sort of stuff. And I think anyone you could get on in terms of what they're doing from an AI security standpoint would be beneficial, because I do think that as it relates to data privacy and personal information privacy, and now AI security, I think Europe is leading the way. So I think it would be an interesting discussion around where they see AI regulation and security going.
Thanks, Mike, for your suggestions of a topic on AI security and the EU. It's something we will definitely explore further. And with that, that's all for today's episode of the Digitalization Pod on AI security, threat or solution. And a huge thank you to Mike Baker, Global CISO at the DXC Technology, for sharing your deep expertise and real-world insight into the evolving cybersecurity landscape. And to Espen Olsen, DXC Norway Country Manager, Thank you for being an incredible guest and bringing your valuable perspectives to the table. To our listeners, stay tuned for more, and until next time, stay secure.
Takk for at du hørte på Digitaliseringspodden, levert av Computerworld og Already On.